Okay, we're going to do number 8 now on the first side of the test, and this asks us to find the zeros of this function by graphing. So finding the zeros by graphing is the same as solving when y is 0, and that's going to be, the zeros are going to be when is y 0, which of course is when the graph intersects with the x-axis. And so we are going to, first of all, we know that this opens down because the leading coefficient is negative. And so first thing we're going to do is find the axis of symmetry. So x equals negative, and b is a negative 6, and a is a negative 1. And so at this point, we know that a negative divided by a negative is a positive. And then we're subtracting this. So we know that this is going to be a negative, so we just put that out in front. And then this is going to be 6 over 2. And so we know that it's negative 3. So the axis of symmetry is x equaling negative 3. So we're going to go over here and we're going to draw the axis of symmetry. And so the vertex has to be on this axis of symmetry. So x-axis equal negative 3. What is y when x is negative 3? So we put y in here. Now when you're dealing with negative numbers, I really strongly suggest that you you make sure that you have the negative signs correct, and then wherever there's an x, put a parenthesis. And then put your value of x in there, which in this case is negative 3. That way everything's accounted for. So we have a subtraction sign or a negative sign, and then the x is accommodated here. It's a negative 3, and that's being squared. And then you have another negative sign, and a 6, and then an x. So we want to put a parenthesis where the x is, and then substitute or plug in there a negative 3. And then and carefully do the math, because this is where I think a lot of people are having difficulties. Exponents go first. So in the order of operations. So we're going to take negative 3 squared, which is a positive 9. But it says we're subtracting the positive 9, so it becomes a negative 9. And then we take a negative 3 times a negative 6, which is going to give you a negative times a negative is going to be a positive. So it's 18, and then minus 5. So work from left to right is the safest thing to do. So negative 9 plus 18, what is that? That's going to give you a positive 9. And then you take that 9 and you subtract 5, and you get a positive 4. So when x is negative 3, y is a positive 4. So here is your vertex. And as we said, it opens down because the leading coefficient is negative, so all our points better be below this, because if they aren't, then we know that we're doing the math wrong somewhere. That's kind of our check and balance. And we're at x equals negative 3, so we scoot over 1 to the right towards the 0 to give us the smaller numbers to work with. And so we're going to take x equals negative 2, and then we'll take the next one over, which is x equals negative 1. Or, if you see that if x is 0, it makes this negative 5. That's also a good point to use if you need to. So, we're going to take negative 2, so y equals, here's the negative sign, and wherever there's an x, we put parentheses. And then inside those parentheses, put what we're saying x is, and now we're saying that's negative 2. Minus 6, and then it's another x, so we put parentheses in place of the x, put the negative 2 in there, and then we have minus 5. So now we take exponents come before your before dealing with this negative sign. So negative 2 squared is a positive 4, and we're subtracting a positive 4. And then we have a negative 2 times a negative 6, so it's a positive 12, or adding 12. Again, work from left to right, so negative 4 plus 12 is 8, and then we take 8 minus 5 and you get 3. So, when x is negative 2, y is 3. So we can plot that point up here. And then the next point over is negative 1, so y equals negative 1, so we're going to go minus, parentheses in place of the x, and then put the negative 1 inside, and then subtract 6, parentheses in place of the x, put a minus 1 in there, minus 5. Negative 1 squared is a positive 1, and we're subtracting a positive 1. Negative 6 times negative 1 is a positive 6. And then subtract 5. Working from left to right, don't try to combine terms or anything, just negative 1 plus 6 is a positive 5, and then 5 minus 5 is 0. So, we have just found a 0 as we are graphing here. So negative 1 is 0, so there we go, by graphing. And then if we then reflect the points, we find the other 0. So this takes 2 to get to the x, or the axis of symmetry, so we go 2 more. And so we see that, and then we can reflect this other one, and then we can go ahead and draw this, what we have so far. So what we see is, finding the zeros. Zeros are when x equals negative 1, and when x equals negative 5. So our zeros are negative 1 and negative 5.